Hey everyone, on this episode, I'm putting a turbo on the K20. Now, I've gone for this TD05 18G. It should be more than enough to make the power levels we want out of this K20. And it's quite nice, it's got a V-band exhaust and all of the little extra bits and pieces I need. Now, the first step with this is to work out the location that I want this to sit with the motor, put a flange on here and on the motor, and tack the two together so I can pull it off and then work out where all my pipework's going to go on the bench where it's a bit easier. So now I jumped over into the CAD and drew it in SolidWorks to check all my design. Now this is the final design we went with. When I started I was aiming for something a little different, but this is essentially what it ends up being. Now, the best thing about doing it in CAD was I could create a flat pattern for the pipes for my collector, then print this flat pattern out, wrap it around my tube, mark it on there, cut that out, and then they matched up awesome. With a little help from my buddy James here, we managed to get the collector looking pretty good. It was handy having an extra hand. Thanks, James. Worked out the placement, I've now come back and bolted this to a heavy bit of angle and made this bit that holds my turbo flange out where it needs to be, and I've now cut out that other support so I can start running the tubes in between without them being in the way. Here's one half of my collector, this one here's just going here like this, and the other bits are there. I shortened them up as much as I could because it gives me more room, and they've sort of got to get from there and into here and stuff quite small, so the less distance it comes out first, the easier that is. Now the bends I'm using for this are these guys. They're 316 stainless steel, 40 nominal bore, schedule 40 pipe. And good heavy stainless pipe, so hopefully they will not crack and hold the weight of the turbo up. I've just got to try and now work out a way I can take from my CAD drawing and cut these at sort of the right part along here, because you know some of them need to be almost in half, and some of them are out here, and some of them are whole. Some of them are actually even just joined together like that. So I got a whole lot of head scratching to do, and I'm going to jump into it today and see how far I can get. So I'm thinking about having a change of plan. This one here I'm really happy with. It's going to stay. Now what was meant to happen was this one here was meant to loop out into that one. Then this one here was meant to poke out between those two, go all the way around and then back in there. And then this one here was to go out along and into there. Now what I'm thinking about doing is making it simpler, because they're not equal lengths anyway. Is going there, still looping out a little bit to make that one a little bit longer into there, reaching that one out to there, chopping that shorter and doing one that'll have a reasonable straight bit through it, straight into there. Okay, so where I'm at now, I've just had a pretty good session out here getting this one and this one in place where I want them, and pretty happy with it, but I think I'm going to have to sleep on this one because I've got it going like that, and it's pretty spread out. I'm wondering if I shorten that one and that one, if I can get it to come down, but it's going to end up changing the amount that that bend happens. Alright, sleeping on it was the right thing to do because today I've come out fresh mind and managed to shorten two of the tubes up. Made these two sort of a similar length in the front here. Shorten them up, shorten that one up, and all I had to do was add that little bit in there, which is a lot less than how much I took out of there and there. So it sort of made the whole thing look. These two here are probably a similar length. That one there might be, and that one there might just be a little bit shorter than the rest. But I'm pretty happy with how it's looking, and I just can't help myself. But I've chucked a few more tacks on it, and I'm gonna pull it off, bolt it into the car, place the turbo on it, and just check everything looks right before I start thinking about how I'm gonna purge weld this thing. This out, it's looking awesome. Everything sort of clears everything nicely, and I have this gap here because obviously, well, not really gap, this bit here because the exhaust is going to come down here and then around and out. So I can't be happier with that design. It's looking really good. I've welded the bottom tubes onto the flange for the exhaust, and I've also welded inside. I don't know if that's focusing or not, but that should keep that pretty nice. It's reasonably flying. I might be able to come in with the burr and smooth that off later on, but I think I'll worry about welding the rest of this up first. Alrighty, so what I did next is poke these wee holes in the back of my jig. That way I could poke my purge line in the bottom there and it would fill the runners in up from the bottom up. Started welding away. Alright, so today is the day I'm finally welding up the manifold. Now, when I came and set it all up, I did a few tests and my boss Brent helped me try a few things, but for a start I run this weld here. Now it looks pretty tidy from the outside. I could have done with a touch more fill, but I mean I could make a pretty neat job like that. The problem was, when you look on the inside, because this is purge welding, so I pump the inside of these with gas, with argon, and it should weld the inside as well. But as you can see, on that weld there, there's no penetration at all. So then I went back and tried this one, and that's really, really hot and really, really slow. And then we've got a huge amount of penetration all the way through, probably a little bit too much. So then this one here, it has no fill. I was just practicing by fusing to try to get it to fill the way through just as a test. And it's sort of 50% burnt through. So once we sort of had that sorted, I switched up to this pipe, which is the Schedule 40, the same as what I'm using. And again, like this one here has no fill and it's pretty rough on the outside. But I was really just aiming to get, with some light, a really nice weld on the inside. So where it melts through, you have to melt all the way through, and it's quite interesting that the gas on the inside sort of stops it collapsing in. It's cooling it and keeping it nice and clean at the same time. So I did these tests, getting better and better until that one there at this end where it's sort of all the way around and not too huge. So I was pretty happy with that. So I started cracking into the whole thing, and it went pretty well. It took a long time. I thought, being all stainless, it was going to warp like crazy, but it actually hasn't warped too bad. The flange here is out by about 1/2 mil if I put a straight edge along it, so that's not going to take much to tidy that up. And this one here is pretty damn straight. So will still take a skim off it just to make sure that it's going to be sweet, because that's the last thing I want, is to have the gasket not seal properly because that's not flat. So I'm pretty happy. And as you can see down in here, so where I did the collector, it's really hard to burn all the way through because of the big angle. But what I'm able to do is reach down with the TIG torch with it way out and actually weld the inside of the collector as well. Now I might come back and smooth some of that out, but I'm not too concerned. It's looking pretty good. So now I just got to skim that and flatten them out and then bolt that on, and I'll be hopefully good to go on the manifold. I'm really happy with the way this came out for my first try at building a manifold, and looking forward to doing more in the future. I've definitely learned a lot here, and that's what this is all about. So cheers for watching, and very soon there's going to be a video coming out on the charge piping and cooling and a whole lot of fun stuff. So stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.